Hello, everyone at home. Hello, everyone here. Um, we are ready to begin. I'm just gonna make sure that we have this microphone here, and there is the gain here. Okay, so can I be seen? Please let me know, and we are ready. A little bit of tapping here. Uh, okay, where are we here? Very exciting today. We are live broadcasting without our studio. I'm just broadcasting here from home today. And let's just see what we have. Okay. I can see you and I can hear you. Big smile. Marco, hello. And Jennifer says hello. And audio, video is great. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Phil. Um, okay, so we're ready to begin. Everybody else are coming in. If you can see a little bit of touch of elephants around me, right? So I did set up uh, the studio here with lights, and see that elephant right there? That's an elephant actually, made out of. If you look closely, it's made out of um, a few people actually in different postures. If you look closely, yeah, it's different postures of people that make up one elephant. And we have a little one here. Anyways, a very interesting session today. I I want to ask the question, which is probably the most important question um, that we should begin with everything that we do. Uh, Peter says it reminds me about your book. Yeah, yeah. Emily is sitting there waiting to be published. Bonjour, Catherine. Comment ça va? Uh, Great image and sound. Thank you. I I asked the question. What would be the place where one would just begin everything? Where would it be? And I believe maybe some years ago it would be looking for ways to protect yourself, and today, as there's, we're open to everything. We're out there into the world, and today finally we have an opportunity to have the most magical option of all generations before us, I think, and it is acquiring wisdom. But wisdom, actually, in the ancient language, comes from two words. Uh, as always, I look at the ancient language and see any clues on what wisdom is. And it comes from two words. One is uh, power, potential power, and the second from nowhere. In other words, uh, ultimately power that comes from no specific place. Okay, so it's a potential of strength, of power that comes from no specific place, and that is wisdom. And I thought that was quite incredible because wisdom is not something that we can learn. And the ancients ask the question, who is the wise? And by asking the question, who is the wise, we get a certain level of responsibility, maybe, that wisdom is not just a word, but it's something that we could have and maybe we can develop. And they say to the answer, who is the wise? They say that it's the one who learns from all beings, from everyone. Is the one that learns from all beings is the wise. And you would think, okay, so what's the big deal, right? I can learn from everyone. But it's not that simple. Um, because to learn from somebody, yeah, thank you, Andre. Um, to learn from somebody, um, you have to actually listen to them. You actually have to pay attention from everyone. If wisdom is learning from everyone, then you have to actually pay attention to everyone and listen to them. But what does it mean, listen? Listen is not that simple. If you want to listen to me, then guess what you can't be doing at the same time? Listening to you. You ultimately have to bring yourself to a state. If you want to learn from me, then you have to not listen to you, but listen to me at that moment, right? So you can learn. But this is simple because here you came to learn and you came to grow. So with me and you, we have no challenge because I'm also listening to you because I have the intention of hearing you so I can be more beneficial to you. So between me and you, there's no challenge. But wisdom is not only when you learn from those who have something to contribute to you. Ultimately, it's from all people. And all means that we have to take the most extreme on the other end. And it is when you have to learn from somebody who may not have your best interest in mind. And that is this challenging situation. But as the ancients say, your wisdom is that strength that comes out of nowhere, out of no place. And it is that inner potential, and it basically allows you to be able to step back and listen and hear and understand and learn from those who may not have your best interest in mind or may not have anyone's best interest in mind per se, right? Not even yours, may not be personal towards you, and it never is. And I thought that that was quite incredible because it's not something that we can decide suddenly, right? Just to learn from everyone. And we can learn easy from those who we feel that have the something to contribute to us and have our best interest in mind. But we will not have such an easy time to learn from those who may not be so happy in their own uh, life. Um, so the key is that learning uh, from them is is almost uh, not a question of learning. It's a question of how will I be inspired by someone or some situation that may not seem so obvious for me to be learning from. It's a lesson that is greater than just a lesson. I mean, what is a lesson if it's not for growth? The value of that lesson is limited. And it's not necessarily something that we could decide, like we said, to do, but it's something that we can find ourselves in, a state in which it is possible. So it comes out of nowhere. It is not nowhere to be found. It is a state that we have the ability now today to develop inside of us. And it's a state that I believe without which um, we can no longer find joy in our life, because we can't pick and choose anymore. There's nowhere to run. But as we always say also, that as with self, so with others. And what we find is that if we cannot, and when we are unable to be empowered, inspired in any situation, regardless of where the other person is, then it's very likely that we're also not necessarily um, as open uh, and as inspiring to our own self at times, because there, that inner voice, that duality inside. So, who is the wise? The wise is the one who learns from everyone, who has the ability to do that. And what is the first thing that we need to have to be able to learn from everyone? You need to have a strong sense of hearing, of listening to others, the ability to listen to others, a deeper level of listening, not just to their words, but to what is behind those words. And that deeply listening, of course, it's part of the heart level, as it comes together with the mind, not just in the mind. Now, as we always say, that to hear others who may not have your best interest in mind, which is wisdom, to hear them for the sake of being inspired by that, from learning from that. We ultimately have to go against what our survival instincts tell us, right? We have to rise above that. And our needs, our desires, our temptations, for that moment, for that exact moment, we have to rise above it and be able to hear them, not from the level of what we hear them say, but to hear them from the level of where they are, right? And we talk about that. That's ultimately a sense of empathy, right? And the ability to empathize with them. Again, it's not because it's something that we necessarily need to add to them, but it's because if we are not there with them that way, we're not there with ourselves that way, and that inner voice, that inner dialogue uh, that we can't run away from will be towards ourselves the same way, right? And I will read what I wrote here because um, ultimately I find myself in a situation um, where I want to help somebody, and not necessarily they are in a place, in the best place. And basically, this is what I have to do, in my work every day. Uh, and my job is basically through my listening and through my accepting and through my not judging and through my um, need to empower and influence them. uh, I find that wisdom is constantly changing, growing. I see myself, I remember myself many years ago, and I compare myself then to now, and the ability to make each person that I meet, whether they are come to me for help or not, each person that I meet become my teacher, but truly a teacher that deep. And those who know me well, how I am able to take every situation and bring the deeper meaning into it. And it's something that helps me recognize and know that my inner dialogue with myself is also transformed exactly that way. And we talked about influence. Again, ancient language influence is actually comes from the word abundance. So to influence somebody means to bring them to a state of abundance, to help them reach there. And as with self, so with others, I mean, we all want abundance in our life. We all want joy in our life. And if we have no ability to apply that wisdom with others, then that's a good sign that we are having a hard time doing it with ourselves. So I was gonna read what I wrote here before we began today. Um, every person in every situation is your teacher. A teacher which, if you listen to them, you will gain abundance. They will become the influence on you, the right influence, if you listen. So, no matter what you know, understand, what your experiences are, what you may have, uh, if you want to show your wisdom in action, you need to be able to let the other person, to influence you, to bring you abundance in the right way. And you come ready for that in advance, because the work that we do ultimately gives you that muscle. And you come ready for that. You come humble. You are listening to them, no matter what it is that they say. You're listening to them. You don't need to protect yourself from them. No fear, no judgment, no jealousy, etc. You see, when I have people come to my office or come to some of the courses, and they share their deepest emotional, mental challenges. They show their pain, right? And I'm listening to that, and I'm hearing them. I'm not judging their pain. I'm not questioning what they say. And to some degree, When a person is angry at you, reactive towards you, doesn't have your best interest in mind, even though you are there ready to help them, to be there. It's always happening in those moments. What they're really showing you, if you listen, they're showing you their anger, their emotional, mental, physical pain. They're just showing it in a different way than if one somebody comes to my office and or to our class and just shares their pain. They're just showing it in a different way. They're just taking it out on you. But if you listen, you hear exactly the same thing that I'm hearing. That makes sense. And then the ancients say that if if you allow the other person to be your teacher, if you're wise enough, if you reach that level, and it's a journey. When they become your teacher, they start influencing you. In other words, they give you abundance by you listening. If that makes sense. And again, we're talking about states of energy because when somebody's angry at you, you hear them, but you're not listening. You're protecting yourself. You're fearing them. You're angry at them. You're judging them. You're right. But it's an opportunity. It's quite incredible. So, who is the wise? Wise is the one that can learn from all men, ultimately gain abundance from every situation, from the obvious that we have right now, and from not so obvious that you may be still holding on to some pain and discomfort, maybe from years ago and maybe from this morning, right? And I mean, even more so at times, we are when we are in our imagination, we are holding on to, you know, a pain and a fear and a judgment and a state of not listening for the future in advance. Are you following me? Very often, you have right now a whole uh, bouquet of events that could happen in your life with a certain people, with very specific people sometimes, that you're right now already, you know, holding yourself back from having the abundance that they can deliver to you if you have grown that state of wisdom. Now, I believe that if you are here today, uh, at least 50% of your abundance you can already apply because we've gone through a lot of the work together, and it's just old habits at the level of sensations that hold you back. But if you remember, I always give this example of um, the song Besame Mucho, where I, as a 4-year old, was listening to it on a single record over and over again, not knowing Spanish. I was mumbling some words probably, and then 30 years later, I heard it again on the radio and in the car, and I had shivers go through my body because there's such a nostalgic, pleasant moment that came back as from 30 years back, and I caught myself mumbling those words, repeating words that didn't make sense to this song. And then I caught myself in that moment, and I realized that since then I learned some Spanish. And suddenly I was able to actually understand that besame mucho is kiss me tender. And I could actually say those words and understand them to some degree. And then I caught myself and I started singing that song now with clear Spanish dialogue. And it was a second time that the shivers came over me because I recognized that growth, recognized that now double pleasure One from the nostalgic moment, and second from this growth moment. And what I'm trying to say here is that I want to run a parallel between when we catch ourselves angry and judgmental, and it's like singing, "Besame mucho," "Kiss me tender," uh, as a 4-year-old. And I believe that you already learned the language, and you can catch yourself, and 50% of all challenges that have to do with not being able to hear and understand that through the anger, through the aggression, others are just coming to you showing their pain. Um, and it's not about, our abundance in life is not about what we accumulate. And that kind of abundance is, for 100 years ago, maybe that was the only way to acquire abundance, unless you were born into it. Now, abundance is not necessarily accumulative of such, and it's a way in which you feel you're at a place, and deeper place where you believe that you are, and suddenly it gives you joy, that state of abundance. And it's irrelevant what really the measures of it on the external world. So a person who is influencing, it's 40. And again, I should have waited to ask you, but ultimately a person that is influencing is, in the ancient language, 40 abundance. Okay, so the 40 is again playing an incredible role here. 40 being the number of transformation, right? And I have a little plane flying here, if you noticed, with wings. And you may even heard, as this little fly was passing by the microphone, just going in circles here. Big one too. Anyways, um, I think even from flies we can learn if we recognize their needs, right? Because by doing so, it's even tougher, I guess. Or maybe it's tougher with human beings. I don't know. What do you think? Um, so yeah, so this is uh, an incredible comparison, I think. Um, when we are able to, sometimes it's easier to be with children because we have less expectations of them, and we see their, if they cry, if they throw things, if they um, demand things, okay, they're either hungry or tired, right? Or they've just been spoiled a little bit and have expectations that are a little bit higher, and they don't get it. But you can hear that, right, in their action. You don't get upset necessarily. I hope that you don't with children, but with adults, of course, we have those expectations of them, and suddenly we don't hear their pain in their anger anymore. And imagine if you have, no matter what situation it is, right, with your family, with your coworkers, uh, with your clients, whatever job you do, um, the ability to still stay, actually, to uh, their anger brings greater harmony inside of you because you recognize where they're coming from. It would instantly, um, first of all, it won't hurt you, and second of all, it will, of course, uh, without you realizing, change them, right? But if you do it intentionally, right, try and just show it on the outside, it's not going to change them. This is why a lot of people get tired of being kind, of sacrificing, right? We talk about that in other times. That if you feel that sacrificing for somebody, you know, listening to somebody is tiring you out, then we need to do some inner work because it can't. You're obviously not going to last, and it will not um, help you much. Anyways, who is the wise? The one who learns from all men, and that wisdom becomes now with self. It empowers you with self. That's the key, probably, to everything we do, as with self, so with others. Peter is saying, what are those ancient words, Eric? Well, koach is the ancient words uh, of wisdom. Chochma. Chochma comes from the word koach. And the word abundance comes from the word um, shefa, mashpia, to influence. Um, is that making sense, what I'm saying right now? Because we're going to apply it. Without applying it, this information just at the level of the mind is great, but it hasn't changed us yet. It hasn't expanded our vocabulary of senses, because wisdom is uh, a state of expansion of the mind as well. I believe it's part of what we would call neurogenesis, awakening of new brain cells. That's how it would probably look. Uh, Changing the momentum of telomeres, elongating the telomeres within each cell would be wisdom, if you want to measure it at the physical level. And of course, um, the level of acceptance of others at the toughest moments, at the toughest life situations, to be able to hear them really, to basically not hear yourself but hear them, would be a great indicator that you've gained wisdom. And of course, you become, power. You become very important in your family because you are able to do that. You become very important in your uh, company, in your with your friends. It's a power of wisdom. And if we go back to King Solomon, um, if you go back to King Solomon, of course, King Solomon, when he received the power to rule, um, God asked him, what would you like? You can have anything you want. And King Solomon said, I want to have the wisdom to rule over the people. In other words, he wanted the wisdom to be able to have the ability to make a difference, to create uh, abundance, right? To become influencer in other people's life. And God said, well, since you asked for wisdom, then you can have everything. Because then you have the patience, you have the understanding, you have the with yourself ultimately, right? First and foremost, with yourself and then with others. As with self, so with others. So there, this is why we do our work, internally, as with self. So Peter says it makes sense. Is that making sense? Andre, is that making sense? I know we've talked about those things before and they're not new. I just wanted to, I mean, for some not new, those who came for advanced classes, we talked about those things uh, from many different directions. But Marco, is that making sense? I think we talked about that with you as well. And Catherine, we talked about that. Any examples from your life? I've said from this morning, anyone from this morning who could use this type of potential, wisdom being the strength that is in potential because it comes out of nowhere. Andre says absolutely. Yeah. Anyone from this morning? Because I want to bring it to reality. I want to make sure that we understand it's philosophy is great, but it could have saved a moment. It could have saved a life. It could have saved a relationship. It could have saved us even this morning. And of course, in our memory, right, there are people who have wronged us, actually wronged us unfairly. They were selfish, they were inconsiderate, they were angry, they were vindictive, and they've hurt us. They may not be in our life anymore, they may not even be alive anymore, but deep inside of us, we are people that experience life outside of time and space, right? Thoughts, memory, imagination. It's outside of time and space. And it's just as real. And it's not going away on its own. And that wisdom that we can acquire and we should be already on our way is suddenly becoming an experience that is freeing us from our past. It's also freeing us from our future because our future is here. Our imaginary future of every day is here. You are re-experiencing it, and instead of receiving abundance from it, abundance and joy, because you're meeting the people in the future that potentially can harm you, and you're experiencing it in the now. You're still meeting the people that from the time that it's gone a long time ago. Could have been our parents. Moments. Could have been our siblings. Could have been other situations in our life. Very close people to us. And it's, we're trying to say the right things and but it's what's really happening inside of us. And this wisdom is giving us the opportunity from every single past situation with people who may have wronged us. Then we are still able to gain the abundance from that situation because now it's not gone, it's here with us. And with the new eyes that we gain, with the new ability to listen to them, to hear them, not forgive, nothing to forgive. They could not be who they were not, they could not say what they didn't feel. They showed us how much they were hurting, they showed us how much pain they had, emotional, mental, physical. They showed us how much in trouble they were, and we were not there to hear them. And we somehow tried to protect ourselves from them without realizing we were. We had fear, anger, disappointment, judgment towards them, and then we were not wise at the time. But the good thing is that wisdom is outside of time. Remember, it's out of nowhere. It's a potential that we gain out of nowhere. It's not a place you can go and say, okay, here's wisdom. Repeat after me. No. Repeat after me is opening a door, and then the experience you have to bring it to this level in which you're more and more and more able to hear them. And what we're developing is not about them. It's about our own quality of wisdom, our quality. So once it applies to one person, it applies to all people, including towards our own self, right? Mm. Rather saying, what does it mean to be influenced by others in this context? If you could explain more. To be inspired, to have new desires, to have a new perspective on life. Well, to be influenced by others. Influence comes from the word abundance. So where we think influence is negative when we are in a state of denial, uh, protective. But when we hear them beyond the words they're saying, it's not the meaning in their words, it's about the meaning that we can gain from recognizing where they are, hearing them, allowing them to give us, no matter what the form is, right? I gave the example of somebody's coming here or to a private session and they share their anger, disappointment, their pain. They just share it in in words often, right? Or how they share it. It's an energy. Now, the same energy may be out there in everyday life towards somebody else, could be aggression, could be unfair at times. It would feel to the other person unfair uh, treatment. So hearing that, just hearing it, we're developing an ability to listen, and that is, in a sense, wisdom, and that is seen as who is the wise, the one that can learn from all men. That learning is being influenced, right? But we only know influence maybe in a bad way, right? Or we only know influence, a good influence and a bad influence, right? And now we're talking about influence as good, period. If and when you're wise, it's abundance. And the one who influences is 40 abundance. That makes sense. Catherine, bonjour. It is challenging to be able to listen on a daily basis. People you've heard who've heard us before, we put filters. My work currently is to listening to myself in order to have a choice instead of working on automatic pilot. Right, right. This is exactly what I'm saying. That Catherine, you're practicing daily, and you're constantly reaching a level in which you're able to differentiate in your own response, and that's the key, right? At the time of the event, at the time of the situation, you're able to differentiate your own response from hearing them to filtering, like you say. And the goal is not to filter to the degree that you can, not to the degree that you can't, to the degree you can. This is why we practice. And more so, Catherine, that the situation with that person only happens once or a few times. But guess what we do? We bring it with us everywhere we go from that point on. We continue injuring ourselves instead of receiving abundance from that situation because we don't let it go, really. I mean, even by numbing ourselves from that, we're not letting it go. We're just ignoring it. Somebody's in the room, but we're just ignoring them. It takes a lot of strength out of us. And every single situation from that point on, which even minutely will resemble or has the potential to resemble the situation that happened before with the same person or different people, we would automatically clothe it, put clothes of that, and instead of receiving abundance from it, we continue, right, to the same old. So it's not easy. Being wise, why would it be easy? Wisdom is power, right? It's it's something King Solomon received. Now we want it. Now we need it. Yeah. Um, Rather saying just listening versus listening from where they are, it's so powerful. Thank you. I can say that my listening skills is not my strongest point, but since I started the inner work here, I can relate to a gradual change in the quality of listening, and life is creating more scenarios where I have to shift more and more listening from the heart. Yeah. It is a bit more obvious now to understand this, but there is still work to be done. Yes, Andre, there will be work to be done because we will want more joy from life, right? We have more abundance that we already have the potential of receiving. We're just not receiving it because we're still um, slowly learning. And like I said, I've received joy from that song Besame Mucho. That was clear. I received joy not because I got it right. I received joy because I did it wrong, and then I recognized more in me. So there was this journey within this moment. So if I didn't do it, if I didn't do it as a 4-year-old first, I wouldn't even have that level of joy anymore to experience. So there's not in perfection here. We're not looking to do it right. We're looking to have and experience the shift. And I think in your comment, Andrea, you are actually showing here that, yeah. And if at any point, and this is probably important as well, if at any point we feel that we've reacted, guess what we do? And that's in our everyday life. And the same thing in our practice, but in our everyday life, if we feel we reacted, the best thing to do at that moment is just to sense the sensations of the body, not to develop your thought of whoa, what did I just do, and to catch yourself and listen to the sensation and let it just melt away, and you will see so much power in that. Just in that moment, just take a breath and feel the sensation. And in some of our work, and today as well, we will do where we sense the words before we say them, right? And that is that unity that we bring. Radha says, so the empathy develops in the process. Yeah. Uh, empathy is the mother's womb, is the qualities of the mother's womb. And uh, we become better and better at it. We're not supposed to be there. It's not a place, it is a sense of growth that empowers us, that gives us joy. It's a sense relative to where we are. So, wherever you are at this moment, and the next moment, you are in a higher place, and that gives you joy. That's it. Not getting rid of this bad situation will give you joy because the same you will go into the next situation with different people. Wisdom is to be the ability to learn from all men. All means those who not necessarily, are best role models in our life. Yeah. And Andre adds, and when my listening skills were not from the empathy, but from the selfishness, it is when I had to lose the most. Yeah. 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 Hi, Vicky. Um, okay. Let's meditate, right? Let's embody all those things, the aspect of wisdom. But what I would like to do, actually, we're going to start from a standing posture. So if you would just find some room around you at home. Um, what I would like is to actually start in a very interesting way today. And we're going to start with a question. And I think I've shared this before with a few people, anyways. I'm not sure if I shared it here in a group. But every single inner command, inner key that we give, all right, it's not an affirmation, right? It's not a contained instruction. It is actually a way to switch on the light, to add a little bit more light into our experience, to open a new door, right? And basically, the opening of the door allows us to go into a new place that we've never been before, into the unknown, right? To allow ourselves to be surprised, to not judge, to right, to allow our body to guide us. So every single key, every single command allows us to do that. And in a sense, it is almost as if we ask a question and then receive an answer, right? So it's not a guidance for the body, the inner commands. They're inspirations, right? We bring abundance to our body because the body listens. And then we listen and we receive the abundance right back. A stronger body will give us more abundance. A stronger us will give the body more abundance, right? We both listen. The body listens to our commands. How do we know? Well, you raise your arm by giving it a command. The body listens to you. That's what it does. And now you're listening back to the body, creating an infinite loop of abundance and wisdom. That's wisdom. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we're standing up. Um, Peter says, I find this so powerful. When I react, I have to pay attention to the sensations of my body. Yeah. And then it's actually working in your favor because now you've grown from it instead of hurt yourself from it. It's not for this moment. I always say that the most powerful thing to realize, I guess, is that the now is not for the now. The now is not for the now, both in our practice and in our life. because life is a journey, so is our practice. It's like a song that we don't want to end. It's like a dance that we're not waiting until we're finished. We're embracing in the moment. So the now is not for the now. And once we remember that, I guess, then all of those things worth doing because we're not looking for instant gratification from this moment. We're looking how to bring abundance into this into our life from this moment, not for this moment. Yeah? Shirley says, I'm noticing both strangers, friends opening up and sharing their deepest pain. And it surprises me and humbles me that they feel so comfortable to do so. I see myself really listening. The responsibility overwhelms me afterwards, but yeah, because you're trying to fix and help. You probably forgot that by listening, you already helped them and you. You bring abundance by listening, not by solving. When I listen to you, I raise the energy. That's how. When I stop listening to me and start listening to you, the energy rises. That's it. That's intention. And then Shirley says, and I'm humbled more when it overwhelms her. Then she's humbled even more. That's it. That's right. Okay. We stand up, eyes closed, please. Let's get a proper connection, making it simple, right? Just as you are. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I had to cough. Okay. The air a little bit dry here. Free your body even more. Just trust it. And now listen. Listen to your body. Not to you. Not developing your thoughts. But listening to your body. Just as you are. Just as it is right now. And listening to your body not on the surface, but deeper. To the sensations of the body. To the not so obvious. I'm going to raise the energy, but I'm going to raise the energy by listening to you instead of me. And you're going to raise the energy by listening to your body instead of yourself, listening to it more, trusting it more, unconditionally. Even if you have aches and pains, you're not judging your body. You're not questioning it, the way it speaks to you. That's it. And now I want you to ask a question with your inner voice. Who is the wise? Just repeat it with your inner voice. Who is the wise? And see if you get not an answer in words or thoughts, but an answer that you will be able to notice in the body, in the postures, in movements. That's it. That's it. That's very good. Just listen. Listen to the heaviness, to the lightness of the body, and let gravity, as we say, be your friend. Don't fight gravity. Listen to the gravity as well. Because gravity on its own does not exist. What exists is the sense of gravity inside of you, and that's your body speaking now. That's it. And let it surprise you. That's the key, right? Be surprised. That's it. Even more freedom. Trust it. We just ask the question and you see, somehow, no matter how advanced we are, we think, okay, our body understands what we tell it to raise the arm or to do other things, but it doesn't understand wisdom. It doesn't have answers for that, does it? It's we who give things names, but the body knows it at, at a level which is so much more inclusive than we could ever imagine. Our body's connected outside of time and space. It doesn't have a limitation of yesterday and tomorrow. The limitations are for us to just survive so we can make sense of this world we're in. Our body knows wisdom at a level we would never be able to recognize even. We don't need to. Let it show to you at, at a language of the body. Good. Even more freedom. Notice coolness and heat changing, tingling, numbness. Notice being taller, bigger. Let's ask that question again. With the intention to receive an answer, not just ask a question as if, okay, I'll ask. But no, with intention to receive an answer from your body with body language, movements, posture, sensations. Okay, here we go. Ask that question. Who is the wise? That's it. There we go. Here we go. Beautiful. That's it. Doing very good. Notice the energy is changing right now. We've been practicing this for a very long time. I wonder if today, just listening to your body has a whole new meaning for you. Something we've done from day one. Just listen. That's it. That's it. Just listen. And the body's listening to you unconditionally. The body's listening to you even if you're doing things that are not good for the body. But there's nothing the body can do that is not good for you. It's just you can see it's growing pain. That's it. Even more freedom. That's it. 2 more minutes. I want to raise the energy a little bit higher. And I'm raising the energy by not listening to me, but listening to you. I'm actually listening to the collective energy and I'm listening to the individual people who are here with us live. Just listening to you, to your energy. And what I want you to do is to do the same to your body. Listen to it. He wants to guide you. Don't doubt it. Don't question it. Don't hold it back. He wants to show you something. Accept it. Something will happen. That's it. There we go. Wow, there we go. Very basic, but not so simple. It's now, but not for the now. We're doing it now, but not for the now. So we're not measuring the value of the experience right now. Not judging, not expecting, not trying to hold on to anything. Just like that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. That's it. A little bit more. Even more. When you're listening, it's not about you. Listen to your body. It's not about you. It's about how much can you allow it to show you. How much would you notice? How much would you be able to value deeper? Yeah, that's it. There we go. Okay, let's open our eyes as soon as you're ready. You've done amazing. Simple, right? I would love to hear if you experiences. If you have question of anything that we've said, because we've just started with an introduction to wisdom, and then we allowed the wisdom to be practiced at the most basic level, unconditionally, with our own self. There's a lot that I did not say today because you've already been there. It's not your first time. I just let you be present in the now, but not for the now. And I have this fly, beautiful fly, going circles. I think it likes the lights, you know. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to share your experience. Just a few words, and, and we will all listen, right? And by listening to your experience, we will receive abundance. And by you listening to our experience, you will receive abundance, regardless if you agree with it or disagree with it, or could have experienced better, or your experience was better, or their experience was better, or that you achieve your best experience, or you could have had a better experience. Those are not, this is not how you achieve abundance. This is the, but just listening. When you share, you give others the abundance and the opportunity, and they give you right back by listening, by sharing theirs, so you can listen. That's why we need each other. So simple, right? Unconditionally. Peter says, in the last minute of the meditation, I realized how much benefit will be when I see what behind your words. It is a lot easier to see what's behind regular day's words. In the last minute of the meditation, I realized how much benefit will be when I see what's behind your words. It is a lot easier to see what's behind regular day's words. Okay. Peter, it's a journey. If I understand you correctly, I believe you understand what's behind my words. Behind my words is influence, abundance, if you listen. Mm. Because again, when you sing a song and some part of the song goes, right? Those are not words, but the melody, the hum is meaningful, not less than the words before it or after. So it's the listening, not the words, not that creates the abundance. Anyway, Marco says, this. I'm aware about energies getting dissipated within me if I listen to an angry narcissist lashing out on me. But if I just listen without judgment, I feel like I'm gaining wisdom. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Not if, but when, and not when, but to what degree. And the goal is not to. It would be boring, Marco, if life was already there. If we've arrived to this world and it was already finished for us. Our own experience would be perfect. It wouldn't. Child is born into this world unable to do things, unable to understand things. And through their struggle, they gain something that is intangible, even though they only gain to see and understand what's already is. But for them, for the child, for the development, every day is joyful because they excited to learn a little bit more. So please be excited to listen just a little bit more to those narcissist people and melt away. Recognize you can do it just a little bit more, and then you will see. But practice, Marco, yeah, makes it so, not understanding. Yeah, thank you. Catherine, a lot of stretching my spine, legs, and arms, giving space to myself, listening to myself. Yeah, yeah. But does it feel that suddenly this listening becomes easier because we understand the value of the listening instead of value of hearing? Does that make sense? And gives us more freedom and kind of takes us to places we couldn't get without that. Peter saying, there's always a lot more than I hear. Of course, that's beautiful. That's what I explained to Marco. There's always a lot more there, and that's the beauty. The beauty is that wisdom is power, which is in its potential always, right? It's not specific information about specific thing. It's a power in its potential, comes out of nowhere, and it allows us to be able to gain abundance from every person, regardless, because in their anger, in their narcissism, in their we're not seeing only that which others see, and we're not protecting, taking personally, trying to what we do and need to do. It's one thing, but it's our internal experience. It's what we take away and into the evening when we are with the children, when we're with our friends, and when we're with ourselves at night. That's what we take away. It's not what we take away is not their narcissism. It's our reactive state that we take away. Phil, hi Eric. I felt I was more aware of my body and listened much more uh, intent, intently. Phil has those words sometimes. I let it lead me and I listened. I felt I was more in tune. Feel much clearer now. Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, that's it. Peter says, yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I guess it's in response to something I said. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, the journey, right? That it's not now for the now. I'm losing the. Why is it refreshing for me? Um, Sorry, guys, I'm losing the questions here. Okay, here we go. I got it back. Shirley says, Catherine says for sure. Um, and Shirley says, deeply humble to soft tears and heart opening to deeper meaning of listening. While observing, experiencing deep tingling in the back, sides, then top of the head, all connecting to release of tears of joy. Deeply inspired with listen to the language of the body. A sacred space. Just listen. Understand through the new. No need to fix anything. Thank you, Shirley. That's it. Radha says, it felt to be wise is to be open to finding unity unconditionally without prejudice. Right. Right. But unity is the birth child to listening. Right. Yeah. Evelina. Hello. Three words that came in need to grow, evolve during the meditation with a lot of bending backwards. Hello. Three words that came in need to grow, evolve during the meditation with a lot of bending backwards. Thank you for today's class, Eric. Thank you, Evelina. Backwards, usually bending is, forwards is usually more physical transformation, which is needed, and backwards is more spiritual. Because forwards is that what's that posture called in your mother's womb? Uh, Fetal. Thank you, fetal. posture. And backwards is that when you need higher help, higher power, and just go backwards and the spine opens up, right? Forward, it's closer circle of energy for survival, and backwards is more. Now, please don't try and go backwards or forwards because you need both. And there's a fine balance, and the body will know what to do. Andre, right after posing the question second time, who is the wise? With the intent to receive the answer, the energy change was very distinct, and in time it felt like it opened another layer, more refined, with occasional image. Now the response is very high. It feels elated. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Make sure that you heard me say that the answer is not to the question with words, but hi, Brady. Come to me. Come, puppy. So the answer is not to the question with words, but it is to the question with the body movement and sensations, right? Oh, Brady, stop it, puppy! No, you're licking me. Yeah, live online. That's not a good idea. See, me and the puppy, don't we look alike a little bit? Yes, right? I don't know how that happened. But we have the same haircut, right? Brady, say hello. Say hello. Say hello. Okay. Okay. All right. Very good. Rada says hello, Brady. Uh, Marcos says thanks for all that. It has become more clear. Thank you, Marco. Shirley says thank you for sharing our reactive states. We take away. Okay. Isn't he the cutest? Oh boy. Okay. So on this note, I want to thank you for being here. It was a little bit different experience. And Peter, what do you think? Was it that bad? Not being, together physically? I tried to put all those lights up and this atmosphere to have more intimate environment than usual. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna practice. Yeah, thank you, Jen. Hi, Zelka. Where's the cat? Next time, she didn't come. Yeah, Missy is amazing. Evelina says that is awesome. Yeah, he came from time to time when I'm working. From time to time, he comes. He just puts his two paws on my knee from the bottom. I give him I know exactly where his tension is. I just put a few fingers on the areas of his tension. He's happy. I tap him a few times, and then he just goes his own way. Got whatever he needed, and he knows I love him, and that's it. Vicky says, "Thank you, Eric. Very nice experience. Thank you, Vicky." Second time, who is the wise? Shirley says, "Notice the sound of exhaling inside both ears." Surprised. Interesting. Phil and Shirley, great class, beautiful dog. Thank you. Thank you, Zelka and Radis. Peter says it was great like this as well, but I like it much when we are together, Peter says. I like it to be together as well. One bug was flying behind me. I know. Isn't it incredible? This is what happens when you're listening. They come to share. That's it, because the birth is the unity, right? Harmony. is the birth of listening, and that's how it works. Anyways, okay, thank you so much for today. Very inspiring for me, and the energy is beautiful. And take that energy into your day. Uh, every single meditation from now on, practice it with that level and more. Right? Take from here and grow forward of recognizing the wisdom of listening um, unconditionally when you're tired, when you're not happy with yourself, when you're self judging, when you're self expecting. Listen to this just as much as you do when you're happy and when you're free. And then you'll see what happens. The birth becomes even more powerful. Okay. Thank you. Until next time, all the best.